Oh my goodness. We are here today to celebrate with Alison Gadsby on her debut short story collection, first published book. Yes,
Yes,
long time coming. Look at this beauty.
for sure.
Breathing
It's so
some
weird.
people stay alive. Beautiful cover. If you can see, it's like a woman sort of diving in, but like bending as she's entering the water, and there's beautiful bubbles, and just a beautiful cover, if I do say so myself.
Yeah,
Um,
Raphael did an amazing job.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
big
really
ups to
wanted
Guernica for saying yes and putting this beautiful collection together for you. Tell me first, your official book launch was last night. How are you on the ground? I was like, I'm gonna have to pull your feet down here. How are you feeling after your book launch?
it was bananas Foster, honestly, like a combination of all of my dreams coming true and dreams I didn't know I had coming true. There
Yep.
were so many people there. I got a standing ovation, which is just so like,
Oh my
I
god,
don't
I have
know.
goosebumps.
Yeah, and I was crying all day yesterday. I couldn't get myself into
Yeah.
like into a stable mind, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's great because that means that I won't cry when I'm there, but that's not true.
That's not
Um,
true.
no, and Holly Gattery is just the like I don't know how to describe her without sounding so awkward and weird, but she
Mhm.
really and truly is this kind of emotional
Yeah.
yin to my yang kind of thing. And I knew having her on stage with me was going to both allow me to be free to be
Yeah.
an emotional basket case and to not be as proper as I sometimes tend to be
Yeah.
in those kinds of situations. And yeah, and of course, Kaylee Brightside, my
Yeah.
husband's firstborn child, is a publicist at
Ah,
Simon and Schuster
wow.
Canada. So
Perfect.
they made the magic happen, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And had you prepared before, like, what you were gonna wear and, like, what you were going to read? Excuse me, just 1 second. Darling son, I can hear everything you're doing. Welcome to, when your home office is also your recording studio. Yeah. I don't know, maybe just yeah, he's making a sandwich, so okay, there we go.
Oh.
Pause for real life authenticity. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Yes. Okay. So had you like prepared before what you were going to read and wear, and like just so that those kinds of like practical things were handled. So in the case of the basket happening, you
Right.
were good to go.
Yep. I'm a big vintage clothing shopper, and I
Okay.
really thought I'm gonna wear something very cool, very vintagey, very out there, but I
Yep.
couldn't find something that I was comfortable in. And
Yeah.
I have this really great vintage blouse that I was gonna wear, but then I ended up wearing it to Heidi Von Pulaski's launch last week.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I can't do that.
Same
So
people might be in the crowd. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Can't do that. I'm also slightly kind of sort of addicted to Simon's, which
Okay.
is that department store out of Montreal. It's
Okay.
super amazing. So I got a pair of pants from there. I wore a pair of shoes that I've owned for a really long time that
Nice.
I
Yep.
got for 20 bucks somewhere. And I bought a blouse. I bought something kind of more expensive than I would ever buy
Yeah.
in my life
Yep.
from Jennifer Glasgow, an
Okay.
ethical designer in
Yeah.
Montreal.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, and that's it. And then the reading part was hard because the stories are dark, they're dreary, they're sad, they're weird, they're horrific, and I didn't want to bring the crowd down. So I read the story that has the most funny bits in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And like the reason that I asked you about like clothing and prep is because from personal experience and talking to other writers, like, yeah, the key is to be as comfortable in your body as you can because you're like your nervous system, you're just a wreck. Like there's no way
Yeah.
around the emotions and the excitement. And so like if you are in something like a dress or new shoes that make you uncomfortable, like I don't know, just
Yeah,
frazzles the whole thing. So that was good that
exactly.
you sort of had that pre-prepped and ready to go. So, and you
Yeah,
cut
and I
your
know
own
we
hair,
yeah,
dyed your hair,
yeah,
cut your own hair,
exactly.
looks awesome.
The hair,
Yeah.
it looks okay now because I clarified it, 12,000
Yeah,
times,
sure.
after I colored it a week before my launch,
Yeah.
which I guess is something I do now a week
Yeah.
before something major happens. I'm gonna cut and color my own hair.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and the pants were kinda stretchy. I knew I was gonna sit down.
Yeah.
I didn't lose the 40 pounds I dreamed I was gonna lose
Yep.
last March,
Yep. Of course. Yep.
Um, and who cares really?
Yeah.
It was just yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice.
Amazing. Well, I'm
Yeah,
so happy for you. And I know
thank
you've got
you.
like more events coming up. The reviews are starting to roll in. I'm going to include like your Instagram and, connective social media tissue within this
Mhm.
blog as well. So people can like stay on top of what's happening and continue to celebrate you as you continue to share the book and
Nice.
get more people to read. Um, so can you tell us a little bit about the publication process? I mean, I know it took you some years to put the collection together. When did you decide to send it out? Who did you send it out to? And if you want to share just sort of the path to publication, that would be great.
Yeah, so I, kind of gave myself an ultimatum in 2023.
Okay.
I have been a non-drinker for a couple of years now, but at the time, I was still drinking, and I was not doing what I was supposed to do for myself. And I sort of gave myself an ultimatum, like, you have to at least do everything you possibly can to get this book published
Yeah.
or forget it. Like,
Right.
move on, go back. Because I also quit my job a few years ago
Yeah.
with, the support of my partner, my
Yeah.
husband. And it was kind of like, man, like, you haven't done what you promised you were going to do when you quit
Yeah.
that job. And
Sorry,
so
can I interrupt? How much had you had written at that point for like
so
you gave yourself the ultimatum?
So I have a lot of short stories.
Okay.
It's all that I write all the time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I write at least 2 short stories a month,
Wow, that's
sometimes
great.
more. They're just like thoughts that live inside my head,
Yep.
and if I go on a long drive or I have a lot of time
Yeah.
stuck in my head, the stories need to get out, and so I have a lot of stories on my hard drive.
Nice.
These ones I felt went together,
Okay.
um, better than a lot of the other stories. There were a couple of stories that were in there that I took out with,
Okay.
the advice of an editor.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say most of them were written around the time my dad was dying,
Okay.
after he died, and I didn't really think about it emotionally. Like, I wasn't really connecting all of that stuff emotionally. I was just writing and writing and writing these stories with
Mhm.
kids, these stories with people trying to survive, these stories about lonely people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't really put it together, but most of the stories were written after 2012, which is
Okay.
when he died,
Wow.
and also the year I graduated from my MFA program.
Wow. Okay, nice.
Yeah,
So you have your MFA. Where did you go to school?
UBC.
UBC. Wow.
Yeah,
Did
I
you were
did
you there when you no, you must have done a
I did the
was it virtual
optional
or
yeah,
okay.
I did the
Nice.
optional residency. The kids were little,
Yeah.
and, being who I am, I literally did it in 2 years. There were so many people
Wow.
doing the optional residency program
Yeah.
over, like, a longer period of time, taking
Yeah.
their time,
Yep.
working full time, and I just decided, "You know what? I'm just gonna get it done."
Wow.
I had a sick kid
Yep.
and, lived in this world where anything could happen at any given time.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna
Okay.
get it done in, like, in the shortest amount of time possible.
So it sounds like part of your personality is that you have the ability to sort of declare a radical experience for yourself. Maybe it may not exist that way in your brain, but like obviously you know how to discipline and time manage and sort of just put your head down and get stuff done.
So
Do you recognize that in yourself? I mean, it
yeah,
follows that you run like one of the greatest, longest literary reading series in Toronto and are province, maybe even in our country for fiction. I don't think there is one for fiction other besides yours. So I mean, like clearly you're like your animus, your like organizational skills are an important part of who you are. Do you recognize that in your creative process?
So I'm not, we were talking about this last night, about being, type A personalities. I'm not a type A personality,
Yeah.
at all.
Yep.
My life is very disorganized. I'm not capable of putting thoughts together, like on a regular day and
Okay.
keeping them there,
Yeah.
but I am deadline oriented.
Got it. Okay.
I was as a kid, I was, as a swimmer, I was as everything. I am like, if you tell me what time you want me to swim, I will swim that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
If you tell me that this is due on March 1st,
Yep.
I'm going to get it done. Like I have 2 interviews on Monday with
Yep.
Mindwin and Anuja Varghese
Yep.
for Howl.
Yep.
I also have another interview. I have Junction Reads on Sunday night, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? But again, because I know in my head, if I have those deadlines,
Yep. Yeah.
I can meet the deadline. And
Okay.
if I don't have the deadline, I can't do it. And part of setting
Yeah.
that ultimatum for myself for
Yep.
the end of 2023, getting it ready, having it, sent to an editor and getting all those query letters together, like this was my deadline. Otherwise, I was going to be back to a full-time job by
Yeah.
the spring of 2024 or the fall of
Didn't want to do
2024.
that.
And yeah, and I mean, I find
Yeah.
great joy. I loved the job that I had,
Yep.
but before I quit, I worked for a church as a
Yeah.
administrator. I loved it. It
Yeah.
was a joy. But at the same time, I felt like there was something missing. And with writing, I don't feel like there's anything missing. I'm not living this life going, boy, do I wish I was working at the church,
Yeah.
you
Nice.
know, kind of thing.
So how many places did you send your book out to? Or did you, I mean, you've been making incredible connections over the years, meeting writers and I'm sure meeting their publishers, editors, like you're just so deep into the community that I wonder if that was helpful in getting your book published.
So the people that I communicate with at publishing houses aren't the same as the people you submit to.
Yep.
So I have always sort of had to have this is who I am, just in
Yeah.
case you don't know.
Yep.
I would love to submit to your, press because you've published and this, and I was
Great.
lucky enough to talk to them or lucky enough to read their books or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
The usual query that all writers should be
Yep.
doing, like
Yep.
make a connection with what they're
Absolutely.
publishing and give them a reason to publish your work.
Yep.
But I always knew that Guernica was going to be the first person I queried
Okay. Nice.
because they publish dark, different, kind of like out there books.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I think Michael is going to like this book.
Yeah.
And so I submitted it to him in their little publishing window, which is
Yep.
February of every year.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, if I don't hear from him by, I can't remember what I said to myself. If I don't hear from him by the end of April
Sure.
or whatever, I'm going to submit it to a bunch of other places. And to be honest, I think I did submit it to 2 other places.
Yep.
Because I only say that now because I remember having to withdraw it from 2 places.
Oh, nice. Yep.
But anyway, so Michael came to Junction Reads in April with his own book. He had 2 books out at the time.
Wow.
And so towards the end, we were all mingling around, and I said, we were talking. He and his
Yeah.
wife Jackie, who's amazing, were talking, and he sort of looked at me. I think I said something like, "I'm going to send you an email this week" or something like that.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, "We're going to publish the collection."
Oh my God. So you had like an in-person with a voice acceptance. What? Oh, I have goosebumps all over. What? I mean, I don't know. It's more magical than that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I
Cry?
still had to put chairs away. I still
Yeah.
had to like be a
Like, sure.
normal human
Finish the
being with
work.
everybody. Yeah, and I had tears in my eyes, and of course Kaylee was there, and
Yeah.
Kaylee came up to me, and I was like, huh, Michael just said he's going to publish the collection, and Heather Wood was there, who
Wow.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
know her,
Yep.
but like
Yeah.
literally my North Star in this canlit world.
Wow.
And yeah, I was just sort of beside myself. But then that kind of joy, that overwhelming glee,
Yep.
um, it didn't leave me. It
Yeah.
just kind of existed for such a long period of time that when everything else started happening,
Yeah.
I immediately went into this kind of numb,
Yeah.
what is this world thing? And then when the book cover design thing started, that kind of went a little a little weird.
Yep.
And so I kind of ended up getting myself trapped in this, I don't know if this is going to be a great thing kind of feeling.
Yep.
And all of the self-doubt creeped back in, and oh my gosh, people are going to read this thing. How embarrassing. Who am I? What the
Yeah.
hell did I just do? Opening myself up to all of this. And so
How how have you been dealing with that?
it's hard. I think I have two sides to me, the self-doubter and the anxious, you know, always on the verge of a panic attack kind of person. And then I have this very rational,
Yeah.
um, sane person, and I don't want to throw around that word like it doesn't mean something to so many of us, but I have this other side of me that's like, listen, you have read a ton of books in your life. You have read a ton of books that you loved that got 1-star reviews. You have read tons of books that you hated that got 5-star reviews, right? Like intellectually, I know that art is subjective. Intellectually, I know that my book is going to hit in different ways for different people.
Yep.
But there's also still that vulnerability, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of writers are going to read my book
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're going to go, oh, well, that sentence was really weak. Or, well,
Yeah.
why'd she do that? And um, yeah, so there's that vulnerability, I guess. I don't want to throw around that word anxiety, but vulnerability, I think,
Yeah.
is how I feel when everyone was buying the books yesterday and coming to get
Yeah.
them signed. I'm just like, looking up and going, oh my goodness, you're going to read my book.
Yeah.
Holy cannoli. And yeah,
Yeah, it's sort of like a part of the process like that kind of smacks you when you get to the point of like putting the cover together and like finalizing a title when you realize, oh man, this is like a tangible, actual thing that's going to be out in the world. And this kind of release happens, whether or not you're ready for it. Like the book is
yeah.
here and it's going into the world. And,
Yeah.
of course, if you want to sell it, which is an important part of the process for your publisher,
Maybe.
um, you know, that's it's great to get into the world and use yourself to show and use your voice and like talk about the process and all of that. And it's sort of like again, you're right, intellectually you know that that is part of it, but like
Yeah.
until it's actually happening and you see it and then you realize it in your body in a different way, of course, like that's when you're like, exactly, like what have I done? And also, the stories are in you. Some of them have been in there for years. The characters
Mhm.
have been in there for who knows how long.
Mhm.
And your characters in this, some of them start in childhood and then there's a story later which I'm like, why do I know this name? As I was reading the books, I'm like, wait a minute. And I would go back and go, oh my God, this was her this is her grown up. Now this is her when she was little. And so there's like this cool kind of growth happening even in this
Mhm.
story collection. Um, but yeah, like all of that then now is out on a physical page for people to receive and, have an opinion or not. And
Yeah.
then that's sort of like a tertiary experience too, is like, yes, we want to go to events. Yes, we want to have reviews.
Mhm.
Um, and then what does that mean? And how does all that feel? What does that feel like? And,
Yeah.
we want that's I don't know if that's happening for you yet, if you're reading reviews or well, I think you are reading, especially by people who do reviews.
Yeah.
Get it from
Yeah.
being in the business, but like it's sort of like you keep getting these emotional hits.
Yeah.
And so the process keeps going and going.
Mhm.
And yeah, you know, that numbness is kind of interesting too, because sometimes it's the only way to just like do the other stuff and like get everything else done.
Yeah.
Can't think too much about it, or yeah, all those parts are going to be like, woo,
Yeah.
woo, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Um,
Exactly.
you know, it's sort of like when you're underwater, and how it feels like the mutedness, but also you feel like the bigness of the body of water that you're in. So I
Yeah.
love swimming. I've loved swimming since I was like swimming in my
Mhm.
mother's womb. So for me, I really loved the water that moves through this, and
Yeah.
all the, sometimes it was just like a droplet. One of the kids is a swimmer and that's it. There was just like a little splash of water and swimming in it. But it seemed like that was a theme, that was something that braided through this. Was that, did you just notice when you were pulling your stories together that a bunch had swimming in it on some level? How did you come to that theme?
So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I love water. I love
yeah,
swimming. I was a competitive swimmer. All my
yep,
kids were
me too.
competitive
Yep, yep, yep,
swimmers. Yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, I think it's just natural, right? Like when you put characters in books, there's some kind of comfort in grounding them in a thing
yep,
that you know very well.
yeah,
And so swimming was it for me, I guess. And the reason I say I guess is because again, it was the editor Jane Warren when she
yeah,
read it and she sent it back to me.
yep,
She said, "Listen, some of these characters are the same people. I don't know if you know that, but these kids
yeah.
are these adults. Like they're all barely
Oh
surviving, they're all
wow!
struggling." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Holy cow! So you didn't, you weren't consciously writing the older
They
version
weren't
of
connected.
Calypso or whatever. That's so wild.
No, they weren't connected. So it was
Wow.
like it made sense to me when so the flash fiction piece where Calypso is a kid, this
Yeah,
gymnastics kid, it made sense to me that that was Calypso
yeah,
because
yeah,
she had a mom who was detached, who was,
yeah,
herself struggling to survive, struggling to
yeah,
live. And then in the later story, the mom is still struggling to survive,
yeah,
struggling to exist, and Calypso is caring for her in
yeah.
a way that she knew even as a 7-year-old that she would have to.
Yep.
And so and it was in particular the Claire, the character of Claire, who is the little kid with the drunk dad in a
Yeah.
very early story,
Yep.
whose brother Cam is
Yep.
swimming in a swim meet, and then she ends up in the trunk of a car in a later
That
story.
was I was not prepared for that story. I was like, "What?" Yeah, it was wild. But I mean, I love, I think I was surprised a lot when I was reading, surprised at, kind of the latent generational trauma. Like, there was no sort of hiding, like, if this is a childhood, the potential for that kind of repetitive self-destruction or abuse pattern to continue,
Mhm.
like, can continue. And I feel like I wasn't prepared for like the choices you made to have that be the story that continued. You
Mhm.
know, I'm like, I love light and hope and all these things. So I was like, maybe the next story will be, and like there was some humor that was good too, but I was like, wow. I was grateful that they were short stories too, because I needed a breath
Mhm.
after a lot of them.
Yeah.
But also they're really like, they sort of grip into you, and the characters hang on tight and really make you think about, you know, humans and like all the crap that we put each other through
Mhm.
and then carry in ourselves. And then, but even in that, like that story, spoiler alert, when Claire's in the trunk, she's badass. Like, I
Yeah.
wish that I had that kind of like wild fearlessness. If something like that happened to me, that I would be like,
Mhm.
go ahead and do it, which just
Yeah.
completely sucked the power out of her captors, which was incredible. So
Yeah.
it's
But
very, yeah,
the thing about Claire is it's
yeah.
not fearlessness, it's carelessness
Mhm.
because she's
Yeah,
gotten to this point in her life
yeah,
where
yeah,
she's witnessed, she's
yeah,
holding all of this trauma in her body,
yeah, yep,
has tried in so many ways to exorcise it from her body.
yep,
And then when she loses her brother Cam, because he
yeah,
decides to just like
yeah,
move away from the trauma,
yeah,
she ends up just being whatever, and then the intrusive thoughts creep in
Yep.
and all of these dreams of dying
Yeah. Yep.
overwhelm her. And so when these two idiots abduct her and throw her in the back of a trunk, she's just like,
Yeah.
"Bros, you picked the wrong
Yep.
person. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't know. Like, I went running in the dark, all
Yeah.
dressed in
Right.
black from head to
Flow.
toe because
Yeah.
I don't care." You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Where do you think this influence for these characters has come from in your like of all the choices you can make and all the characters you could create? Where do you think these come from?
so a lot I mean, I'll answer that in 2 ways.
Okay.
One is I have a wild imagination. I have always had a wild imagination. As a really young kid, I did I was a weird kid. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. At various stages in my life, I only ever had like one best friend, and that best friend was also the kind of weirdo.
Yeah.
Um, I had my middle school best friend was probably the coolest human being ever,
Yep.
and I couldn't believe she was my best friend.
Wow.
But I only ever really had one best friend at various stages of my life,
Yeah.
and they embraced my outsider weirdo-ness. But
Mhm.
I often create stories from people on a bus, walking down the street, driving
Yeah.
in a car, wherever I am, I see people and I write their story.
Wow.
But I mean, I think I would be lying if I said that these stories are not connected at all to me. They're not autobiographical. None of them are true.
Yeah.
But I suffered postpartum depression in a way that was invisible. I had intrusive thoughts that overwhelmed me. I didn't sleep for weeks, for months. I presented as a very healthy, normal mom.
Yeah.
Um, I breastfed the kids for, extended periods of time.
Yeah.
But kept, that those intrusive thoughts are like, I really, really want to get in a horrific car accident where all of my family dies except for me.
Yep.
And I go to the funeral and I'm like, you look at Allison, poor Allison, she's lost her entire family.
Yeah.
Um, the kids falling, dying, like, those thoughts are overwhelming. And so when I put a character in a certain situation,
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me that she, you know, pushes her father-in-law into traffic.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a 3-month-old at home, she's
Yeah.
exhausted,
Yeah.
and what does she do when her father-in-law says something that tips her over the edge? She's
Yep.
like, see you later."
Mhm.
And the kids, it's hard to put a kid in a situation with a drunk dad
Yep.
and not imagine a world where that kid turns out to be a little bit like me and makes choices that are a little bit like choices I would make.
Yeah.
But again, Claire isn't me.
Yep.
Um, Cam is not my brother, but that trauma is sitting there
Yeah.
trying to figure its way out of them, just like it's sitting in me trying to figure its way out.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm alone as a writer.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't do it consciously.
Yep.
Maybe writers who say they do it consciously um are better than me. I don't know, but I feel like art is an exploration of yourself as much as it's an exploration of the world
Yeah.
and the catastrophic existence that we're all sharing but somehow hiding from each other. And like what you were talking about earlier, how painful it is to read some of the stories, and I said this last night at the launch.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we hurt each other's feelings on some level
Wow.
because with our stories.
Yeah.
Because if I
Wow.
don't hurt your feelings,
Oof.
you don't know the pain that I'm carrying.
Yeah. No.
And like it's that kind of thing. Like we can't turn away all the time from the pain and discomfort in the world.
Yeah.
The politicians want us to turn away. You know,
Yeah.
they want us to look the other way and see something else entirely and click on something else, but we can't.
Yeah. Wow. Were you cognizant of that when you were writing at all? Like the potential impact of response in terms of someone saying something like, you know, why are you writing all these stories that are so dark and dreary? Like, there's enough of that in the world. Are you thinking about that, or
I think I mean, the funny thing is my husband David reads all of my drafts.
wow, that's awesome.
He
Oh,
gets he
okay.
gets the first draft.
Yep.
He very rarely gets second, third, fourth, or
Yeah.
20th drafts. He may have
Yep.
gotten, a 20th draft of some problematic stories, but
Yeah.
he mostly only gets the first draft.
Okay.
And he really is my kind of like weather vane.
Wow.
And he'll come back with either, I don't think it's doing what you think it's do it you like I think I
Yeah.
know what you want this story to do and
Yeah.
it's not doing it.
Wow.
Or he'll come back and he'll go, holy shit, like that's bang on, like that's some dark stuff. And because he knows my trauma inside out
Yeah. That's a
in
really
ways that
incredible
no
relationship
other
to have.
people do. Yeah.
Is he a creative person too? Did you say he's an artist?
He's an artist.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yep.
one of his paintings. They're all over the house, but he was an abstract oil painter for 20 years. And his thesis was on how art is mediated and experienced
Wow.
through different medium.
Okay.
And so I think he understands what, even though he's not an English major, and he quite often says like, I don't know, what else do you want me to say about this story? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he knows, when a story is supposed to be doing something.
Wow. Yeah, he
And
has that
then,
instinct to pinpoint that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I am lucky. Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And when just one more process question, like you are busy. And so
Mhm.
when are you writing these things? Like if you get the idea in the car, do you like give yourself a voice memo, send yourself an email, and then like when do you sit down and do the actual writing?
So my process is that stories live in my head for a really long time.
Okay.
I used to, because someone told me to, have a notepad beside me
Yep.
and take notes.
Yeah.
But I don't do that.
Yep.
I
Just remember.
if a story comes to life, like the idea lives
Yeah.
through the night or
Awesome.
survives
Yep.
the car drive or
Yes. Yes.
whatever, then it's something. Then
Yeah.
it's something that's in me that needs to come out.
Yep.
If it's just like quite often I'll have a really like wacky idea
Yeah.
and I'll go, oh, I'm gonna write this idea, that's like art
Yep.
dealer getting out of jail and moving on to some suburban street
Yeah.
and casing the houses for all of the good art or whatever. And then I'll write that story. It'll end up being 5,000 words,
Yeah.
and then I'll go, what's that story supposed to be doing? And really it's because it was just this stupid idea that came into my head and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write it, and then it like goes
Yeah.
to nothing. But if it lives in my head for weeks or months
Mhm.
and that character comes alive for me
Yeah.
and he or she like breathes in a certain direction
Yep.
and that's a direction I want to go, I write. And most of my writing now is mostly in the morning. I
Okay.
am not great after 5 o'clock at night. I'm great reading after 5 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
but come 5 o'clock, I'm like, where's my dinner?
Yep.
Where are my
Yeah,
pajamas?
exactly.
Where's the
Yeah.
television? Is it time for Jeopardy yet?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
my mind shuts down at night, and so I'll read before I go to bed because
Yeah.
like everyone, I think I'm no different. It tires me, so I
Yeah.
fall asleep reading.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm a morning person. So at 7, I have my coffee
Yeah.
and
And
sit
you
down and write.
writing on a laptop, on a desktop? Do you use Scrivener, Word, Google?
I write in Word
Okay.
on the laptop
Yeah.
in a chair,
In a chair. Oh, nice. Like, so
which
it's
is
on
right
your
there.
lap.
It's a total mess. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I know that I probably shouldn't. Every once in a while, if David's at the office, I'll move
Yeah.
into his office and
Okay.
sit in a chair, but it changes the vibe a little bit. I'm better editing in that
Okay. Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
space.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
Speaking of editing, it sounds like you had an important and positive experience with an editor, especially one who recognized, hey, wait, is this
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
So this was the first time that you've had this kind of editorial experience?
So the first time I had this kind of editorial, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I wrote a
Yeah.
terrible novel in um when did I write that novel? I'm gonna say 20, I don't know, 2020, 2021.
Okay.
This weird novel. And I sent it to I actually probably shouldn't name her because she's a
Okay.
writer.
Sure.
And she sent it back
Yeah.
with feedback that,
Yep.
Vanessa, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, made me so mad
Yep.
because I should have learned everything that she said to me
Yeah.
in my MFA.
Ah.
Everything
Wow.
that she wrote down about how shitty this novel was stuff I should have learned in my MFA. And to be perfectly honest, maybe I didn't learn it in my MFA because I had, you know, dreams even then of the renaissance of the short story collection,
Yeah.
and focused almost entirely on short stories, despite
Wow.
my thesis being a novel.
Yeah.
Um, I, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so mad. And then immediately went out and got like a bunch of books on plot points and arcs and how to structure a novel and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then continued to work on the novel I was working on at the time, which is
Yeah.
subsequently gonna be published. But anyway, the
Oh, lovely.
short
Okay, good.
stories, I um so in 2023, as part of the ultimatum,
Mhm.
we had money. We had like,
Yep.
I can't remember how many what we got in a tax refund, I think.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to find out how much it is to get this particular editor, Jane Warren, this
Interesting.
editor who edited a friend's book.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, okay, I have that money. And I,
Wow.
of course, I consulted David not to get his permission, but to just
Yeah.
say, hey, this is how I'm using
Yeah. Of
this money.
course.
And
And I will say, I mean, it's not cheap, but it is essential. Like
changed everything.
you must hire a professional editor. Everyone who's watching this,
Yeah.
like professional, like this is their gig, this is what they do. Find out what other books they've edited, see if they've edited the genre that you even write. Like this is essential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Traditional or self-pub, you need a professional editor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. And if
Wow.
honestly, it's not something that everyone can afford. I
Yeah.
mean, we're in a financial position that I can use
Yeah.
that tax
Yeah.
refund for something like this,
Yeah.
that I can, that I don't have debts to pay,
Yeah.
that we're not, struggling to exist. So I
Yeah.
understand that
Yeah.
not everyone
Absolutely.
has, $2,000 to throw
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
But if you don't, go join a writers group
Yes. There's other ways for sure.
and get feedback. Like,
Yeah.
the number of
Yeah.
people who go on that Facebook group, Canada Writes, oh my
Yes.
gosh, the number of people who come on there and just say, I've got this memoir, where should I get it published? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Who's read it?
Yeah.
Like, someone else has to read this thing. You
Yep.
can't have just written this in the vacuum of your
Yep.
little office
Yeah.
and expect now to find a publisher. Like, it's bananas to me that
Yep.
that
Me
happens.
too.
And like you were saying with community,
Yes.
part of what made the promotion of this collection, I mean, bless Farzana Doctor, who is the one who said you need to get over yourself and do the promo squad and
Yeah.
send the emails
Yep.
and get it out there. No one's going to fault you. No one's going to think you're an egomaniac.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's going to
Yep.
understand that you're trying to promote your book. And I was
Yep.
like, oh my God, it just
Yeah.
all seems so,
Yeah.
like, it does seem egomaniacal. And I'm sure you understand the
Yep. Absolutely.
feeling.
Struggle with that
Um,
every day. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is that comfort of community,
Yes.
and it's not just because I run Junction Reads.
Yeah.
That community existed before I started Junction Reads.
Right.
Junction Reads was started because that community said, "Hey,
Yeah.
I think our little neighborhood needs a reading series."
Yep.
And I went, "Ho- I can distract myself from
Yeah.
writing and doing
Yep.
all the things that I should
Yeah.
be doing
Yep.
and start a reading series. I can
Yeah.
do that." And and that's what I did.
Yeah.
And But outside of that, I still had a little community of people who were writers. They were all submitting to magazines and trying to get stuff published. And every time one of us got something published, it was like, woohoo, like we're
Yeah.
here. And anytime
Celebratory.
someone was like, oh, this author's coming and their book launch is going to be at this place. And we were like, oh, we should all go. And,
Yeah.
half of us would go and half of us would stay home in our pajamas. But we were already pre like 2014 when I
Yeah.
started the series. We
Yeah.
were already building a little community, and I urge people
Yep.
who are listening to this to start a little community, like even if it's just a little workshop at the library,
Yep.
and you find other emerging writers who are
Yeah.
struggling to find their voice and to find a place for their voice.
Yep.
It's so important.
Mhm.
And Holly, a couple of publishing people,
Mhm.
and I can't remember who else, which is gonna people are going to the Winnipeg Writers Conference, and
Oh,
this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking
amazing.
about
Yep.
community and how it is essential for writers to have their community, not just to find where to place their work, but when their work is placed and they're
Yes.
overwhelmed with all of that embarrassment and all of that self-doubt and all of that, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Yeah.
Feeling they've got these people to hold them up.
Yeah, exactly. And to move through the cycles of the parts of being a writer and having a book and a piece of art in the world.
Yeah.
Because it certainly does not end once the writing is done. Like it's just a
Yeah.
whole nother sort of body, mind, paradigm experience that is part of the process. And look, some writers don't do that. Some writers put a book out and the book goes into the world, like traditional or self-pub.
Yeah.
And that's whatever. You can do whatever you want. But
Mhm.
um I think it's worth the experience of getting to share it with people, especially when you have other writers who are in your community and in your
Mhm.
friendship circles, and
Yeah.
you just want to support each other. Like, and it's that simple and pure. It's like you worked your butt off. This
That's
thing
it.
is real now. Like, let's celebrate it. And
Yeah.
it can be that just the beauty and simple joy of that, and that
Mhm.
is fills you right up.
Yeah.
Sort of help you deal with the other parts that are gonna make you wanna feel bad or tell you you're
Yeah.
not good enough or
Yeah.
say you're too tired, screw social media, whatever, all the stuff that kinda zooms
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
amazing. Are you still swimming? Like, is swimming a part of your life still?
So I have now that I'm a senior citizen, I guess. I don't know. I started getting vertigo
Oh,
with
yeah, yep,
swimming
yeah,
a couple of years ago.
yep,
And so I got back in the pool like full on
okay,
last year, like just was like, ah, let's go. And I was going every day for
wow,
months.
yep,
Um, and coincidentally, uh, our family experienced a tragedy
okay,
and I got raging vertigo. And so between the raging vertigo and the tragedy, I was out of the water for like 3 months.
yeah,
And then that bled into summer and, lake swimming and
yep,
doing regular
yep,
water stuff.
yeah.
And then the fall when the world, like life just got really busy and I haven't been in the water in it's going to be a year, a full year.
Well, metaphorically, you've been in the water.
Right.
And
Yeah. I've
that
been
counts, that counts.
struggling in the water.
Is there a pool that's close to you? Like
We
a
have a
50-meter
bunch.
pool?
Yeah, we have a
Oh,
bunch. We have a couple
nice.
of 25-yard pools
Oh,
close to
nice.
me, but I'm
Legit.
also about a 10-minute drive from the Olympium, which is a
Oh,
25-meter, sometimes 50-meter pool.
oh,
They have a 50-meter 3 times a week.
yep.
And oh my
We
God, I
have that
love it so
here, and
much.
I was swimming, and I showed up one day on the 50-meter day, and I was like,
That's so
"What?
far
What?"
away.
And I'm like, I just grabbed a flutterboard. I'm like, I don't even know if I can do a 15-meter. Like, I felt terrified, even though, like, of course I could, but I was like, wow. Yeah. So then I made sure I checked. I'm like, oh my God, can I do 15 meters today? And then I feel like I'm always
Uh,
in the pool much shorter when it's the 50-meter days because I'm like, whoa, I do 100 meters and I'm like, oh, like my bones are screaming. But yeah, what a difference. 15-meter and 25. Good Lord.
yeah,
But
exactly.
it's great. Swimming's just really incredible.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
love
I
it.
love I love that I can relate to you on that level. It's really, yeah, really powerful.
Yeah.
Is there a specific person in your life that you really want to have read this book? Like maybe not like an actual person who you know in your life or something, but like in general, maybe someone who is this, a mother or a swimmer, or who's your audience? Who would you like to read this book?
Okay, I have two answers to that question.
Okay.
Last night, I think I mentioned George Saunders' name a dozen times. So I'm going to say I really, really, really want George Saunders to read my book.
Okay.
Only because I mean, I love his story so much, and the way that he reveals important things in characters and how he ends his stories. I just love it.
Mhm.
Um, as far as a target audience, I don't really have a target audience, and and I'm sure you're going to agree with this because I think we think the same on a lot of things, that it's really bad for authors and artists to have a target audience,
Yep.
because I think it is a kind of unconscious bias
Yep.
placed on
Absolutely.
us as creators
Yeah.
when we have to think about a target audience. And I also think, and I'm sure everyone listening will agree, like art has art should not be a commodity.
Mhm.
It should be something that is consumed freely, willingly,
Yep.
and when I say also freely, as in free, Lee, I I just don't think that artists in any way, shape, or form should have to worry about capitalism and commercialization when they're in the middle of creating something.
Right.
And sometimes I've looked at like literary agent profiles. I've looked at
Yep.
other people that you would query profiles,
Yeah.
and I don't query them.
Yeah.
If there is any hint in there, like this is what we want,
Yep.
um, manuscript wish list or whatever,
Yep.
if I get a sense in their manuscript wish lists that they want books that are going to make money, then I'm like, that's not the agent for me. I know that's their business. I
Yeah.
know they're not going to make any money if they don't make any money. But
Yep.
also at the same time, like they should be lovers of art that is provocative and disruptive and weird, because that is the greatest art in the world. And I'm not denying the value in commercial fiction or popular fiction.
Yep.
I myself immerse myself in it all the time.
Yep.
Who doesn't need that kind of escape? But I also think there is a world where we need um, books that, like I said already, hurt people's feelings. Like it's essential. I listened to Kinesia Lubrin and Sarah Bernstein last
Yep.
week
Yep.
with their lectures on complex stories,
Yeah.
and both of them in very different ways. And I hope those essays are available for people to read at some point in time. Both of them in very different ways said that it is essential to be uncomfortable
Yeah.
and to experience discomfort
Yeah.
when you're reading fiction.
Yeah.
Whether it is, again, and this isn't just that the subject matter is uncomfortable,
Yep.
whether it is just a stylistic thing
Yep.
and that you're forced to kind of think while you're reading,
Yeah.
you're forced to use a certain kind side of your brain while you're reading,
Yeah.
or whether it's uncomfortable characters told in straightforward narrative.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be both. You don't have to have uncomfortable narrative with uncomfortable characters, but
Yeah.
that it's important as readers to expect or desire to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. When I left those lectures last week, I was on the subway texting my sister, going, I just listened to probably one of the most important
Wow.
things as a writer
Yeah.
and reader, as a reader, right? Like it
Yeah.
makes me want to go out and read this stuff or force myself to finish the book. Because
Yeah.
when you pick up a book and you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what's with this narrative voice? Like, I can't,
Yeah.
where is this book trying to take me?
Yep.
And you just close it and you go, ugh, I don't have the brain capacity for that right now, or whatever reason you give yourself. It made me think about forcing myself to read past my discomfort.
Yep. Wow.
But yeah.
Okay. Did you kind of say in passing that you're having a novel also coming up at some point?
Mhm.
Okay. Like, are you allowed to talk about that, or can you say anything about
Um,
it?
I think
Uh,
so. You know what?
okay.
I didn't even
Like, is
ask
it
the
on the books
publisher.
yet? Do you have a publisher? You don't even
I'm a
have to say
publisher.
who it is, but okay, you have a publisher. Do you have a release date or year?
Well, we're just working around the release date, whether it's
Okay.
early 2028 or
Oh,
early
wow. Okay.
2028.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Dreams of the Weary is the
Oh,
current title.
yep. Nice.
And it's dual timelines, basically
Okay.
two characters, a
Yep.
mom, a single mom who has a kid with a facial difference,
Yeah.
who is, and I have a kid with a facial difference,
Yep.
and the instinct that she has to protect her at all costs and to keep her away from school, keep her away from friends, keep her hidden away. And then, of course, at the same time, they have this beautiful, loving relationship. The kid learns how to play the piano, is just an incredible pianist, learns how to sew clothes, is just an incredible seamstress.
Yeah.
And because she's, living in a home with her mom and the landlady,
Yep.
who teaches her how to sew, she's like, I want to live in the real world,
Yeah.
and meets someone who runs a sideshow, and he says, I can give you the world, baby. And she says, yes, please.
Like a literal like carnival sideshow?
Yeah, it takes place in the
Wow.
50s and 60s,
Oh,
and
wild.
like
Okay.
it's mostly exploring or challenging maybe the perception that sideshow performers needed to be protected and that the sideshow needed to be shut down because they were being exploited. When in reality, for a lot of the performers, they felt that polite society was imposing upon them prescriptive ways of living, more polite ways of living. There were ugly laws in the United States that disallowed people with facial differences
Oh,
to even walk the street. And
jeez.
so when there was this big move to shut down the quote, freak shows, they
Wow.
were like, well, wait a minute, we can't even you walk the street in some states. We
Wow.
can't. Um,
Did you know that going in, or did you find that out when you were doing research?
it started when a kid said to me, always celebrity obsessed, said to me maybe about 12 years ago,
Yeah.
said, is there anyone famous with Sturge-Weber syndrome, which is the rare syndrome that he has that
Yeah.
includes the facial birthmark
Yep.
and swelling? And I was like, I don't know, let me find somebody. So I found this character,
Yeah.
a sideshow performer
Okay.
at the turn of the last century, and
Wow.
wrote a story about her. And then in writing that story about her,
Mm.
I got a couple of books. I got the the book Freaks. I watched the show Freaks.
Yeah.
I read a couple of essays. I went to the reference library and spent the day looking up photographs and personal essays written by people. And again, it was just for this short story.
Mhm.
But the more I read, the more I thought, wow, they really took their livelihoods away, and it wasn't, I didn't write the book with a thesis,
Yep.
because I think what is important, as only the mother of someone with a facial difference, I tried to give voice to every different face and different body
Yeah.
in the book, as representative of every different face and body whose words I read.
Got it. Okay. Yep.
Because there were some people, performing, making money, but hating every minute of it, hating the fact that this is what they had to do to make a living, and took every opportunity they could to get out of it. One of whom becomes a kind of spectacle for the medical school at the University of Toronto. And then there were other people who were like, listen, I'm making $1,000 a week. Like, this is it. And so I really wanted to, again, with just as I do with my short stories, I want the reader to decide what they think about it,
Yep.
and um, what I want them to think about what they thought
Hmm. Yeah.
going into it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you surveyed a bunch of people on the street right now and said the word freak show, I think people would have a very strong opinion about it one way or the other. And I think back then and even now, we don't give voice to different and disabled bodies as much as we should.
Yep.
It is, in fact, legislated that they don't have voice in so many different organizations, corporations, in legislative bodies. And so that's it. Really, I just want people to think about what thoughts and opinions they had and whether their thoughts and opinions living in a typical face, typical bodied
Yep.
world, whether their opinion about it matters.
Wow. I like that element of your writing that yeah, that you offer us a story, and whether it's steeped in research, reality, or, personal experience, or completely made up. Yeah, it really feels like something being held up. And when you're done reading, you can't not be affected by it. I
Mhm.
couldn't not have thoughts while I was reading. It is like an engaging experience reading your short stories.
I'm
And I
glad.
look forward to
Yeah.
reading your book, and feel like that's a really lovely element. I'm reading a book now that's but big one of the big five or four. I don't know,
Yeah,
there's less and
I
less
know.
of them all the time. But
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think right now it's still the big five.
yeah, I'm having a very different experience with it, and
Mhm.
it's not fully enjoyable. There's some predictability that I'm
Yeah.
struggling with, but I also want to finish it, but it's a completely different, emotional and physical experience reading
Yeah.
this kind of you know that kind of story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that, I guess, is what I love about reading and books, is that it's an adventure when you when you start something
Yeah.
new, and
Yeah.
what on the day with your emotions, and when you're perimenopausal or menopausal, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm reading like 8 books because I can't finish anything right now.
I
I
feel
don't
that.
know, it's so hard to finish things quickly. Um, so yeah, but I do love that about books and reading and art in general. So I'm so grateful. Oh, there's your stack.
Oh, no,
Amazing.
here's my stack. Here's
But
my
you also, I can't believe how many books you read, though, because you're reading for the people who are reading at Junction Reads.
This is this week.
Wow.
This is this week.
That's
And well, first,
incredible.
I mean, I read Margot Lapierre's poetry book already.
Okay. Wow.
My goodness, this poetry collection.
Amazing.
I am almost finished.
Oh, that's Anuja's new one. Okay, wow.
Yes, almost finished this. My
Yeah,
Nguyen, I talked to her on Monday,
wow.
is that word propulsive. I don't throw that word around a lot,
Yeah,
but my has a way of just like getting you into the story immediately and
yeah,
just
yeah.
pulling you along. And
Awesome.
then David Bergen I talked to March 19th. So
Wow.
that's not imminent. I don't have to read that now,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
and I think you're right. Like there is a place for every book
Yep.
that is published,
Yeah.
not AI books,
Yep.
everybody, but
Mhm.
there's a place for books, and there's a time to pick up a rom-com and
Yep.
disappear into it, and there's a time to pick up a murder mystery and disappear into it, and there's a time to read other books. And I think the only thing I would say to anyone is just don't read the same book all the time,
Yes.
because
Yep.
then if you get trapped in that I'm reading this kind of book all the time,
Yep.
it's a struggle to read anything else because they don't have the patterns. They don't have the same patterns and the same kind of wavy
Yeah.
narrative voice that you recognize from all the books that you read. And then it becomes, yeah, this really not my thing,
Yeah.
And so I just wish people would read more diversely, like read people outside of your culture, read people
Yep.
outside of your gender, read people outside of your biological sex, like read other stories
Yep. And read different
because
read short stories. If you always read novels,
yeah.
read short stories, read poems.
Yep.
Yeah, reading is great. Or listening. I have a voice in my head that's like, don't forget to say audiobooks, because some people can't read, and they listening is their mode.
Yeah.
Other people love stories, but like physically can read, but for whatever reason don't read. Like I have so many writer friends who listen to like they love audiobooks.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like it's harder for me because I get really distracted. Also, I don't hear very well all the time, so I need the book and the words and underline, and I'm like folding pages, and I have like deep interaction with the actual physical thing. But yeah, definitely like
Yeah.
diversify, and I like if you're feeling uncomfortable, I like why I like that kind of
Yeah.
internal journey you can take with yourself and figure out if it's what it is. Is it the subject matter, the character, the style, all of that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I don't mind taking the time to do that. And it's not a phone, it's not a computer.
Hmm.
Like, I can't read phones on my book. I can't read
Can't read.
books on my phone. And even on my computer, I'd always much rather have a book in my hand. So,
Yeah, I got a Kobo.
okay,
It's not my first Kobo, but it's the
okay,
first Kobo that I've actually read more than 5 books on so far.
okay, nice.
And it's been pretty good.
Okay. Do you like
Yeah.
does it have light coming off it? And you
It's
can
not
like
it's
increase the size of the words?
it you know what? It's like a doll kind of,
Oh, nice. Oh, it's not that
like it,
big either.
yeah. And it's not like it's just easy to kind of like move up and down
Nice.
with stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I don't mind it. It's
Yeah.
not as great. It's not as good as a hard book, but
It's
it'll
good
do.
for traveling too. I have heard people say, "I can't pack 3 books." See, but I'm like, "I'll pack the 3 books and not have an extra pair of shoes." I'm like, "No, no,
Me
I
too.
need the books."
Me too. But
Yeah.
I can't remember who I was talking to a couple of months ago. Um it might have been Katie Welch, because it was a Zoom call,
Mhm.
and they were talking about that going away,
Yeah.
and something about the Kobo and 20 books, and I was like, "Excuse me, what did you say? 20 books?"
Wow.
And I thought, imagine that, like imagine being able to go on vacation with 20 books,
Wow.
and so I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm
Yep,
gonna do
yeah,
that.
exactly. I'll take one of those.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's 3 o'clock. I want to honor our at 1 hour time. Also, people be busy too, so we'll
Yeah,
keep it to an hour. But this has just been
thank you,
lovely and inspiring, and I'm so happy for you. And I
thank
wish you the
you.
best on your continued adventures as you continue to share your work and get it into the world and get people reading. And yeah, I'm very happy, and I enjoyed your book insofar as it challenged me to feel discomfort. And
Mhm.
I don't know that my feelings were hurt, but I really love that. I'm like gonna stick with that. I like the idea of that, and I have never really thought of it that way. So thank you for illuminating that for me. Um, but yeah, I did like the emotional experience that I had when I was reading it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, and
And
thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for doing this, and
Yeah, I
thanks for your
can't.
great work too.
Like I said, I'll share as much as I can on the blog and hope people connect with you too. And writers in town, if they go to Toronto to see you, or if there's virtual stuff, like hopefully I'm going to do what I can to help get more people to read the book
Yeah,
um, and
thank you.
support you. And also, I always tell people about Junction Reads all the time. I'm like,
Amazing.
writing fiction, check out Junction Reads, please.
Yes,
So thank you for
amazing.
that. And yeah, I look forward to what's next. And of course, whenever my next piece of fiction comes out, I'll be like, "Can I
Yeah.
do the series?"
One
That's when
anytime,
it's
anytime.
happening. It's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the spring,
Yeah,
and I will
it's
see
gonna be
you.
14 degrees, like
Oh, is
Sunday
that
or
warm?
something. It's weird.
I'm across from Detroit, so I'm like, is what does that mean? Is that like 50? Is that like,
Oh.
or maybe it is 14? It's not negative.
No,
That's
no, it's 14, which is if I don't know, 62,
yeah. Oh wow, I
something
love
like that.
it. I'll
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will definitely
me
take
too. Me too.
that. Okay, so I'm going to just stop hit I'm gonna hit end the recording, but not hang up on you. So,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa.